half minutes of the game, but gave the ball away 5 times in the final 3 minutes and 24 seconds, including 3 times in the final minute. The Gators' comeback is tied for the third largest in a national championship game. It's the third national championship for the Gators and their first since going back-to-back in 2006 and 2007. Bundle auto and home, renters, or condo and save with Progressive. That's the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
Hey there, I'm Jack.
And I'm Stag.
We're just two deer that want to make sure you know it's deer season at your authorized John Deere dealer. The deer season that saves bucks. You know, like us.
Yeah, you can get $3,000 off select John Deere machines. No early wake-up calls or tree stands required.
Just a trip to your authorized dealer before June 2nd.
If you ask us, it's the only deer season worth celebrating.
Visit johndeere.com/deer season to find an authorized dealer and for complete finance details.
I went hands-free.
I went hands-free.
I went hands-free.
I went hands-free with Skechers Slip-ins.
Join the millions of people who are celebrating going hands-free with Skechers Slip-ins. Footwear you just step into and they're on.
It's crazy how something as simple as a pair of shoes have made my life better.
After trying Skechers Slip-ins, I want all my shoes to have this technology.
See what everybody can't stop talking about. Go hands-free with Skechers Slip-ins at a Skechers store, Skechers.com, or wherever stylish footwear is sold.
How many SportsGrid listeners does it take to change a light bulb?
It takes 2.
1 to change the light bulb, and 1 to see if our mobile app can provide the same amount of light. Get the winning edge. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
Off and running in today's edition of Football Full Circle, right here on the SportsGrid Radio Network. Sirius Channel 159, Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel taking you around the NFL for the next hour. Some news and notes, Scott, around the draft. We saw a report yesterday with Adam Schefter coming out and saying that it's not going to be Abdul Carter that goes to the Browns at number 2 overall. Now it will be potentially Travis Hunter. We saw some movement for Travis Hunter's 2nd overall pick, now on FanDuel at minus 250. Before that, it looked like it would be Abdul Carter. Primetime, Deion Sanders has come out and said that it should be Shedeur and Travis Hunter, number 1 and number 2, respectively. Give me your thoughts about what transpired with the Adam Schefter report, and if you feel that Cleveland will, in fact, take Travis Hunter number 2 overall.
Well, did he say it definitely wasn't going to be him, or it might not be him, and it could be somebody else? Like that's, earth-shattering news. I mean, yeah, it could be somebody else. Thanks for that, Adam. And it might not be him. Okay, thanks for that. It might not be him. I don't need Adam Schefter, Joe, to tell me that. Some of these guys just make up crap. They really do. I don't blame them. Their bosses are saying, come on, guys, send something out, send a tweet out, show some interest. And you send out something that's as basic, yeah, they might not take him. How about that? And they might take somebody else. How about that? I put 0, Joe. I mean 0. Can you go less than 0? Less than 0 credibility in these guys' reports pertaining to the draft. Nobody knows anything. Believe you me, there isn't a scout out there for the Cleveland Browns that is calling up Adam Schefter and saying, hey, you know what? I heard that Kevin Stefanski talk about how he wants to go this way, not that way. It's not happening, Joe. So it's just fodder. It's just, clickbait, as they like to say. So 0. Listen, the Browns are capable of doing anything, right? It's the Cleveland Browns. So who knows what they're really going to do? I don't think the Browns know at this point what they're really going to do. So a 0, Joe. Just 0, credibility on that stuff.
No, I agree with that, Scott. I think when you look at it, Abdul Carter would have been a nice fit with Myles Garrett, and we saw defensive tackles and obviously defensive edge rushers really take over and transform the Philadelphia defense. But, there's so many needs for Cleveland that you can't rule out the possibility of a quarterback as well, whether that be Shedeur or somebody else in that spot. There's such a quarterback-needy team. We talked about the Deshaun Watson type of situation, the swing and miss by Jimmy Haslam. They do have Kenny Pickett there. They have a multitude of needs to challenge the likes of Baltimore and Cincinnati and even the Steelers in the division that, Travis Hunter is just not going to change this organization from a loser into a winner in 1 year. I just don't believe that. We'll see exactly what they do. But let's just assume for argument's sake that they do take Travis Hunter number 2 overall. And we talked about this with the New York Giants. You're staring Abdul Carter in the face, an edge rusher that you could obviously pair with Thibodeau and that defensive front 7, or you take Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur right now to be the 3rd overall pick, Scott, is 4-1. Travis Hunter's plus 250, assuming he goes 2nd. Abdul Carter minus 170. Better pick, Abdul Carter, Shedeur Sanders for where the team is right here and right now, number 3 for the New York Giants.
Oh, it's a no-brainer, right? And it's either the Cleveland Browns or the New York Giants, Joe. It's Shedeur Sanders because they're both in similar spots. They both have head coaches, maybe not so much Cleveland, but I think Cleveland as well, dead man walking. I mean, you got to get something to regenerate this franchise. Again, whether it's the Browns or the Giants. Abdul Carter, Joe Schmo, Travis Hunter, they're not going to, who cares? Honestly, who cares? I told you before, Travis Hunter's not playing offense and defense. He's not. He's like the antithesis of Ohtani, right? You're going to bring him in here, and him and his agent are going to say, well, you're going to have to pay me twice my money because I'm playing 2 positions. Giants are going to say no. Browns are going to say no, and he's going to pick one. And now all of a sudden, all of the fanfare of this guy playing 2 positions is all thrown right out the window. So it's got to be Sanders, Joe. It just has to be. I don't even care if they don't like Sanders. Unless he drops out of the first round completely and there's stuff behind the scenes we don't know about. Maybe the talent evaluators say his arm strength really isn't any good. He's this, he's that. So he drops completely out of the first round. Other than that, the Browns have got to get out of that stench of the Deshaun Watson situation. They just have them so more than the Giants. They have got to turn the page on that. And unless they draft a quarterback, Kenny Pickett is not going to turn the page on Deshaun Watson. He's still sitting there waiting to start come October, November when he's completely healthy. They have got to move on from that. And the best way to move on from that is Sanders. And if he turns out to be a bust, Joe, you know what? So what? At least you have accomplished moving away from the colossal mistake of Deshaun Watson. So I don't think he's getting past the Browns, or at least I wouldn't, if I were the Browns, I would draft him. Who knows? But if he's there for the Giants, same situation. You got to get yourself a quarterback. You got to prove that dopey, meaningless, stupid win against the Indianapolis Colts in week number 17 of the NFL season, which cost you the 1st overall pick, won't come back to bite you that much.
I understand that, Scott. I just think where the organization is, and I told this to Ben the other day, that, if that's the way it does play out, where obviously Travis Hunter's taking number 2 overall, then I expect them to take Abdul Carter, right? Because think about it. You have an edge rusher. You could pair him with Thibodeau. You have to stop mobile quarterbacks. Jalen Daniels, Dak Prescott coming back from injury, and obviously Jalen Hurts. He helps that front 7 at least challenge from a defensive perspective those teams that you have to compete with in the division. I understand the Shedeur situation, but they did it all wrong. If they were really serious about Shedeur Sanders, and I told you this before, I think they could have signed Jameis or Russell Wilson, not both. The fact that they went both showed you that they were all in terms of Shane and Brian Dable, chips in the middle of the table. We're going to try and win with both of these guys, both of these veterans, and see what we can muster in terms of a wild card appearance. Should they make the decision now for Shedeur, big picture for the organization? Absolutely, but they're not going to do that. They're not going to do that because their backs are against the wall. What I do want to ask, though, is assuming, let's just say, Shedeur doesn't go to the Cleveland Browns. He doesn't go to the New York Giants. Then you have Jacksonville and New England there, respectively. They don't need quarterbacks. Knowing what Las Vegas did now with the extension with Geno Smith, most likely they're going to take potentially Ashton Genty over Shedeur Sanders. Is there potential for Shedeur to slip past 9 in the Saints and be outside the top 10 in terms of April 24th?
I would think so, but I would also think that if it got down to 5 or 6 with New England and Jacksonville, that a team would trade up. Like, I don't think they would wait and keep my fingers crossed that none of these other teams.
Who? Would it be the Steelers? Would it be Minnesota? Who's left?
Well, not Minnesota, but could you see the Steelers? I could see the Steelers doing that, right? I can see the Saints.
One, though, right?
Saints. The Saints need a quarterback. I can't believe they're going to go back to the season with Derek Carr, but they realistically know that he's not the answer at this point, right? I tell you, if Pittsburgh did it, that would be amazing. With Dion in Pittsburgh, Shador obviously, but the Dion, Shador, that would be something. You talk about a franchise that wants to maintain this winning record every single year. It'll cost you a couple of first rounders right down the line somewhere, but that would be something. That would be something. Not that many teams that need quarterbacks, right? Outside of Cleveland and Giants, Saints, the Raiders seem committed to Geno. I mean, I heard you say this the other day. It's true. There's not that many. It's not like last
year. You just go from 21 down to 32. Outside the Steelers, there's no team that's quarterback needy straight down to the Philadelphia Eagles. And that's the problem, where if the Steelers don't potentially sit or reach up, Shador Sanders could be the guy on the slide in terms of April 24th. We'll come back with more draft talk and more NFC, AFC odds right here coming up next.
4 out of 5 scientists agree it's smarter to be on SportsGrid, and we're pretty sure that one scientist is still a virgin. He just gives that vibe. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
With the SportsGrid News Flash, I'm Trey Westerberg. New Mexico Governor Michelle Grisham signed legislation Monday to create a turquoise alert for when Native Americans go missing in the state. The effort, which had overwhelming support among lawmakers, responds to a troubling number of disappearances and killings in Indian country. The turquoise alert system will allow law enforcement to quickly share information. Texas Governor Greg Abbott announced a special election to fill the late Democratic U.S. Representative Sylvester Turner's seat won't be held until November. Abbott's announcement that the special election will be on November 4th came as Democrats have accused the governor of delaying the election after Turner's March 5th death to help Republicans maintain their razor-thin margin in the U.S. House. The Army has re-enlisted more than 23 soldiers who were discharged for refusing the COVID-19 vaccine. 3 people rejoined active duty Army service, and more than 20 came back either to the National Guard or to the Reserve. I'm Trey Westerberg with the SportsGrid News Flash.
Something amazing is happening. Despite a citywide blackout, this company is still up and running. That's because CDW deployed and managed a cost-effective Eaton Triplite Series Smart Pro UPS to safeguard equipment easily and reliably. Keep the power on and protect your IT equipment from electrical challenges. Triplite by Eaton and CDW. Make amazing happen. Find out more at cdw.com/triplite.
With Progressive's collision coverage, my family gets up to $1,000 for vet bills if I'm injured in a car accident. And that makes this Chihuahua really feel like part of the family. What's that? I don't sound like a Chihuahua? Oh, I'm sorry. What exactly am I supposed to sound like? I guess all Chihuahuas are high-strung, riding around in expensive designer purses. Actually, I prefer riding in cars. So I appreciate that my family protects me with Progressive's pet collision coverage. Okay, maybe I am a little high-strung. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in all states. Coverage for dogs and cats is included with the purchase of collision coverage and is subject to policy terms.
There's something you should know and always remember. SportsGrid does not increase luck. We're your unfair advantage for the latest sports gaming information. If you're looking for luck, go find a horseshoe. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
All right, back on Football Full Circle, talking about the upcoming NFL Draft taking place on April 24th. SportsGrid will have you covered on day number 1 from about 8 o'clock straight through midnight. Scott, we left off talking about Shador Sanders and the potential slide, right? So if he doesn't go, let's just say to New Orleans or the Steelers, let's just say something happens. You look at 22 through 32. There's not one team that would take a quarterback. Now, the only one I would bring up, I mentioned to Ben yesterday, get your take. You got 22 with the Chargers, 23 with Green Bay, 24 with Minnesota, 25 with C.J. Stroud in Houston, 26 with the Rams, 27 Ravens, Lions, Washington, Buffalo, Kansas City, and Philly. Which team, if any, does Shador potentially drop to, if that's the case?
Yeah, there's not too many, right? These teams really are kind of locked in If he was there in the second, third, or fourth round, yeah, but to use a first-round pick on a guy that, you're hoping is going to be a backup, that's a lofty position to be in. With Philadelphia, because Jalen Hurts, Shedeur Sanders, kind of similar as far as their playing style. Hurts has certainly dealt with some injuries before. They're the world champs. So, they have the luxury of maybe not having this pressing need. If he fell all the way down, to the last pick in the first round, maybe they would do it. But there really isn't that many. I will say, let's shut my lights out. There's not that many. It's not like last year where we had 5 or 6. I got to pay the bills. I forgot. Right. There isn't that many, but in Indianapolis, you think I can certainly see them saying, okay, you know what, Richardson's not working, so let's go there.
How about this one? How about the Rams?
Let's put it this way, Joe. The Atlanta Falcons, the Rams would be a good one, right? But the Atlanta Falcons, took a quarterback in the first round when they just spent, $160 million in Kirk Cousins. So there is the surprise element that some team is going to do something that no one thought, why would Atlanta do that, right? So with Michael Penix Jr. So Rams would be one. I could see that. Maybe, they certainly tried to kick Matthew Stafford out the door for whatever reason, although they didn't re-sign him, but maybe.
But that's why I said Stafford, right? I brought that up just because Stafford, they've tried to move on from Matt Stafford. He's back. How much does he still have in the tank? If they don't get back to the playoffs and win the division like they did last year, you can make the assessment that they're going to need a new face of the franchise, right? You don't want to do it through free agency. You want to do it through the draft, and McVay coaches up quarterback talent. So I think it's a pretty good fit, assuming that he's there. What I find intriguing, though, is that, some of these teams that do have quarterback needs have waited this long, like the Steelers, suggesting that you're going to get a guy in the draft. Now, maybe Pittsburgh and Aaron Rodgers, that marriage is made in heaven, and we'll find out within the next 2 weeks. You don't think it's that much of an issue. I still think it's an issue. Why is he holding off these teams, multiple weeks? If you want to play football, sign on the dotted line and let these teams make proper adjustments or assessments on some of these players that could be first-round talent. Why is he holding them up for this long? Why?
Yeah. I don't know, because it's Aaron Rodgers? Because he loves the attention? Because, as I told you last time we did a show, there really is nothing going on. If this thing lasted until after the draft or, up to the draft, then I'd be a little surprised because, now you're really holding Pittsburgh hostage. Because now they can go to him and say, listen, if you're not joining us, we're drafting a quarterback. If you are joining us, we're not. So I would be surprised. That would be my demarcation line in the sand if I'm Pittsburgh. You want to have some pride. You want to cut off your nose to spite your face. So, all right, let Aaron play the game. Nothing's going on over the next week or two. But a couple days before the draft, if he hasn't let his intentions known, that's where if I'm Pittsburgh, I'm just saying, all right, that's it. We got to go in a different direction. How about San Francisco? How about San Fran for Sanders? Maybe San Fran doesn't want to pay Brock Purdy all the money he's going to be coming to get.
No, not for that.
How about Arizona? Not for that. How about Arizona front office? People saying, you know what, Kyler Murray sucks. Wetzel's right. You know what? We're never going to win with him. We're just never going to win.
Wetzel's right. Kyler Murray's terrible.
Another guy.
That's it.
He's awful. He's awful.
I'll tell you what. If Arizona doesn't, everything is shaping up for Arizona to be a wild card contender this year, right? 7 games last year. They were on the cusp. They were one of the better teams in the early portion of the year, beat teams like Miami away from home, right? They looked like they were trending in the right direction. And then all of a sudden they fell off a cliff in the second half of the year, even though their defense was pretty good, right? It was the offense that couldn't get it into gear, right? And they struggled. And the one game that really hurt them was the Carolina game. The Carolina game, they put up 30-plus points and still lost to Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers. You can't do that. Let me ask you this, though. You talked about Pittsburgh, 8.5 win total, plus 120 to the over. Would you take a shot? And is that baked in with a Rodgers number? Or would you bet that with Mason Rudolph as is, assuming there's no quarterback right here, right now?
I wouldn't bet it with Mason Rudolph. That's for sure. I would be surprised. Even if Rodgers, Joe, said, you know what, no, I'm retiring. I can't believe Pittsburgh would really enter this season with Mason Rudolph as their starting quarterback. I mean, he is just a backup of all backups. I mean, I think they're really counting on Aaron Rodgers. Otherwise, they could have gotten Winston or some of these other quarterbacks that, at least, I mean, Mason Rudolph stinks. I mean, he's the backup quarterback. That's all he is. So if you told me he was going to be their starting quarterback, I'd be all over the under. I think that number is baked in with Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers there, I would go over. Anyone else or Rudolph anyway, I would go under. Let me ask you, right? Yeah. You watch a lot of football, right?
Yeah.
Shedeur Sanders, in your eyes, is he an NFL winning quarterback?
I think he is. I think the fact that he did it with a beat-up offensive line, I would take a shot on Shedeur, and knowing that he's a little bit arrogant, I like that in terms of a quarterback. I think it translates to the next level. We shall see. We'll come back with more NFC, AFC odds right here on Football Full Circle.
There's smart.
And there's not smart.
Not smart is hope as a strategy. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Keep it here.
And win. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. The SportsGrid Radio Network presents This Date in Sports History.
1958, the Dodgers construct a 42-foot screen in left field at the LA Coliseum to cut down on home runs since it was only 250 feet down the line. The team moved to Chavez Ravine when Dodger Stadium opened in 1962.
This is gonna be a home run! Unbelievable!
The Dodgers have won 6 world championships since moving to LA. For SportsGrid Radio, I'm Mike DeMurgis.
The Technology Minute with George Capalbo.
New University of Ottawa research says if you're a member of the Polar Bear Club and like to take a dip in the ocean during sub-zero weather, you might actually be extending your life. This study finds acclimating your body to repeated exposure to immersion in cold water for an hour over 7 days supercharges cellular resistance, the body's natural mechanisms cleaning out damaged tissue. If you want to try this for yourself and you're not quite ready to jump into the Arctic Ocean, maybe just try a cold shower. Follow me at Capalbo on X and stay tuned to The Technology Minute for more cool stuff like this.
The early line.
That game by Houston was not won on Saturday night. It was won in September, in the preseason, with the practices, with the constant chaos that Calvin Sampson does. It was won in playing close games after close games. Duke, when the moment got big, Ben, they didn't know what to do on either side of the ball.
It's the early line with Ben Stevens and Donnie Rightside. Weekdays, 8 a.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific on the SportsGrid Radio Network. Wherever you go,
there you are.
Download the SportsGrid mobile app and we'll be right there with you.
So now you can get the winning edge
anywhere, even while the wife's talking to you.
if you've got an earbud.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
All right, continuing the football conversation, Lisi and Wetzel talking about the NFL draft, talking about some odds for the upcoming season. We left off talking about the potential for Aaron Rodgers to join the Pittsburgh Steelers. Win total juice to the under at under and over 8.5 on FanDuel, minus 140 to the under, plus 120 to the over on the Steelers. Let's take a look, and I'm shocked. But I guess you put it into perspective and you say this is the year. Arizona, right? We left off talking about Arizona and Kyler Murray. You don't love them, but 8.5, Scotty, win total, plus 105 to the over. Under 8.5 to the under. I like the over, 8.5. I'm buying in. Now, did you see the report about some people anonymously in the organization saying they wish they took Malik Neighbors over Marvin Harrison Jr.? Did you see that report?
No.
Yeah.
No, that's interesting.
Yeah. Right.
That's
so, that is interesting, right? When you see the breakout performance by Neighbors, hot and cold, Marvin Harrison, different types of players, right? Bigger body for Harrison, more Calvin Johnson-esque, I'll say. Malik Neighbors in the mold of Jamar Chase and some of the greats. Thoughts about that? But I still like Arizona. I didn't check the schedule, Scotty, but 8.5 I think is doable for them. Love him or hate him, Kyler Murray. I still think with Connor, with obviously Trey McBride, they could get 9 wins this year.
You would think they would, right? But again, one less home game. So NFC's got the one less home game this year. Has he had a winning record, Kyler Murray?
No.
When you really start to think, I don't think he
year.
has, right? The second year, I think he had one. So, yeah, on paper, Joe, this should be a halfway decent team. They're getting a big-time wide receiver, theoretically with Harrison, big-time tight end,
right.
big-time running back, or the serviceable running back, in Connor. What's missing? It's the quarterback. He stinks. That they should be so much better than what they are.
He retreats.
In a division that, yeah.
He retreats. He's always dropping back
afraid.
15 yards. He's dropping back 15
wants to run.
yards. It's terrible. It's terrible. I am looking for their updated schedule for 2025, but here it is. So you want to go through it, Scotty, quickly?
Good.
Home games outside the conference. You ready? Atlanta, Carolina, Jacksonville, Tennessee, Green Bay.
Wow.
It's not bad. Wow.
That's pretty good.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
That's
games.
pretty easy.
Yeah.
Right.
So, Atlanta, right? Jacksonville, all winnable games. Okay.
Yeah.
Road games outside the division. Texans, Colts, Bucks, Saints, Cowboys, Bengals isn't going to be easy.
That's a pretty easy schedule. Well, I tell you what, if that's not the easiest schedule, then someone else in that division has the easiest schedule. That's playing the NFC South. That's pretty easy. If they don't go 9-8 and make a serious run to the postseason this year,
right?
Then they just got.
I'm liking the over, Scotty. I'm liking the over a lot.
I hate to say it, but
it's plus money too. Plus 105 to the over. Not bad.
Really?
Yeah.
Even the games in the division are all, I don't know what we're getting out of San Fran. The Rams should be pretty good now that Stafford's back, right? So, but
right.
I don't know what we're getting out of San Francisco. Seattle, same thing.
Right. They can split
they're winnable
Seattle.
games.
Let's just say they go, what do you want to say they go? What do you think? 3-3 in the division?
Let's go worst case scenario 2-4. Let's say San Fran Rams beat them twice. Yeah.
2-4, they could still pick up 6 wins on the schedule. Colts, Saints. Cowboys are winnable.
Yeah.
Cowboys, knowing what the Cowboys have, I know you like the Cowboys, but still, who knows where they are when they play them back then? Cowboys could be dead and buried by that time. I'm just saying, you never know what you're going to get.
The daily double. The NFC West there hit the daily double. They play the NFC South, which is awful, or at least winnable games, and the AFC South, which is winnable game. All those games are all winnable. Those are the 2 worst divisions in football, and they got both of them.
Yeah. When we come back, we'll dive into some AFC totals right here on Football Full Circle. Lisi, Wetzel, NFL doesn't get better. Keep it where it is.
The winning edge.
You've got it.
But not everybody has it, because not everybody listens to us.
But we're working on that.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Progressive presents the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders. The Florida Gators captured their third national men's basketball championship on Monday, holding on to beat Houston 65-63. The Gators rallied from a 12-point deficit in the second half to win it. A multi-billion-dollar legal settlement with the potential to reshape the business of college sports moved closer to its fast-approaching finish line during a federal court hearing on Monday. Judge Claudia Wilkin in Oakland, California, declined to provide final approval of a deal between the NCAA and plaintiff attorneys representing past, present, and future Division I athletes, but lawyers were directed to address a short list of her remaining concerns within a week. The NCAA has agreed to pay roughly $2.8 billion in damages to past and current athletes to settle 3 federal antitrust lawsuits that claim the association's rules have limited the athletes' earning potential in various ways. Bundle auto and home, renters, or condo and save with Progressive. That's the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
Lowe's knows how to freshen up your yard, and it all starts with mulch. That's why we're introducing Mulch Week during Springfest with can't miss savings. Right now, get 5 bags of Stay Green Premium Color 2 cubic foot mulch for only $10. Plus, members earn 5 times the points on select mulch purchases all week long. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 4/9. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. Points are awarded on eligible purchases. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change. Excludes Alaska and Hawaii.
Progressive knows you've got enough to worry about in life.
Hi, it's your life again. Feel like another year is just slipping away? Yeah, remember all those New Year's resolutions you made? You still haven't finished the first book. Just 19 more to go. I mean, if we're being honest, it wasn't a very realistic goal. Have you ever considered that you intentionally self-sabotage? So what's that about?
So let Progressive protect your home and auto, because you've got enough to worry about. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers not available in all states.
You're listening to SportsGrid.
Spreading the winning edge far and wide.
Terrestrial, internet, TV, satellite, and don't forget our mobile app.
Face it.
The winning edge is everywhere.
Somewhere there's a squirrel frustrated he can't get a phone.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
All right, continuing the conversation, Scott and I are breaking down some win totals for 2025. Left off with Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals, plus 105 over the 8.5 wins. I like that bet. I think it's definitely doable. I also think Arizona is potentially a dark horse to win the NFC West. We know that the Rams are there with Matt Stafford, but the way Kyler and that team played at times throughout the regular season last year and the schedule lines up potentially for them to win 9 or 10 games in 2025. Let's take it and jump over to the AFC. Scotty, Houston got to the playoffs, right? They went toe-to-toe, get the victory over Jim Harbaugh and the Chargers. They lose as 8.5-point underdogs to Kansas City. And Pat Mahomes, win total this year, 9.5, juice to the under at minus 135. We know the AFC South is basically, a mishmash of teams. They're the best of the bunch right now. Plus 115 to get over, Scott, the 9.5. You taking that? Just not knowing the schedule, would you make that bet early on?
I would say yes. Knowing the AFC's got the extra home game, so that would help their situation some without knowing their schedule. 10-7 to me seems more doable than 9-8. So my initial reaction would be yeah, without looking at the schedule.
All right, now let's look at the schedule.
Let the fun begin. Yeah.
Let the fun begin outside divisional opponents, okay? We'll start with the home games, all right? Denver.
Okay.
Not what he wanted
Winnable,
to hear. Not what he wanted to hear.
Yeah.
Raiders.
Winnable, 1.
Okay. Another game with the Bills.
It's tough to, winnable just because it's at home, but I'll say no.
Arizona.
Win.
San Fran.
I don't know what we're getting out of the Niners. Did they beat them last year? Or they played them tough, I think? I'll say yes just because, I want to go over.
And Baker Mayfield in Tampa Bay for the home stretch.
I'll say a split out of San Fran, Tampa Bay. So 3-3.
Buckle up. You ready for the road? Outside the division. Are you sitting down? All right, here we go. Kansas City.
Loss.
Chargers.
Loss.
Ravens.
Wow. Loss.
Rams.
I'll say winnable.
Okay, Seahawks.
That's winnable.
Okay, so now that you've seen the schedule, you taking the over or the under? Under's got the juice. Over plus 115. The 9.5 wins. 10-7. Scotty cashes that ticket. It takes the family out to where are you taking them? Cracker Barrel.
Denver's rather. We're going under. With that schedule, they're not going to win any of those road games.
That's it. He's selling CJ Stroud and the team down the river. That's it. Once he heard the schedule, he bailed like the rats on the ship. That's it. Not good for you, huh?
Yeah, they would have to really almost run the table or go, what was it, 6 games? 5-1 in their division, which is possible, but that's what they would have to do in order to go over 9.5, to go 10-7. 10-7 is a really good record. It's not easy going 10-7. Most teams fall into that, 9-10, even 11-6 is like really, really good. So I don't think with that that schedule's tough. Barring injuries, obviously. That's
not easy. It is not an easy schedule. That's why obviously you see the juice, right? That's why you're seeing that. And now what happens with that offensive line? With Tunsil now, he's gone to Washington. What's the identity? Do they shore that up in terms of the NFL draft? We'll see. You ready for this team? I think you'll like, because I think you're hot on this team. Another AFC potential dark horse. Denver Broncos. What do you think, without looking, their win total is for 2025?
I would say 9.5.
It is right on the dot. Under or over, which has the juice?
I would say over has the juice.
No, over, you can get a great price. If you like the over, Scotty, you should book it now. Plus 125 to the over. The under is minus 145. Okay? So what do you think about that, Scott?
What did we have last year? 10 wins? They had at least 10 wins last year, right?
Let me just double check that for you. Teams, I'll go right here. I'll get you the last year, the Denver Broncos. I think they were 10-7. Could be wrong. They were 10-7. 10-7. Yeah. They were, but wait, one of the losses. Were they? Wait a minute. Are they counting I'm just saying 10-7, third in the West.
10-7.
Right?
But that's counting the Kansas City win, which the Chiefs just rolled over completely. So realistically, 9-7.
So you would book that. You would book the bet prior to the schedule, correct?
Yeah, right.
All right. So let's see here. All right, they have them listed. All right, hang on 1 second. So this is a little bit different.
The good thing also about the Broncos is they get a third place schedule. Because Chargers finished ahead of them, and so did Kansas City. So even though they made the playoffs, they're still getting a third place schedule, which is pretty darn good.
All right, you ready? At a conference. Right. Theirs is a little different on the website. A lot of the teams just listed home and away. They have paragraphs, so I can't do that. You ready?
All right.
Outside the division. They're outside the AFC West. Okay? Raiders. Jacksonville. I'm sorry. Jacksonville, Tennessee, Dallas, Giants, Bengals, Green Bay, Houston, Colts, Jets, Eagles, and Commanders. Those last two are killers.
I'll say the Commanders game is winnable, just because I think there's going to be a little regression for them as well. That's 8-3 as far as winnable games, non-winnable games.
Well, what are we suggesting they do in the division? You think 3-3 is
I
realistic?
think 3-3. Yeah, because they could sweep the Raiders if need be. I think. I don't know what the Raiders are going to look like.
Tennessee, Giants.
That's a win.
Outside of that, Colts. That's not easy.
That's a win.
You're giving them all wins. Jets. Yeah, give them the win.
That's a win.
There's the win. So that's 4 wins. You're at 7.
Yeah. Now we're at 7.
You're at 7. Right. Right.
3
They would
more.
have to go for them to go basically out of the division. They would have to go 4-2 in the AFC West.
Got to beat the Raiders twice. Well, you're not going to win at Kansas City and the Chargers. That's not happening. That's why I said 10-7 seems so like, okay, that's doable. But then when you start to think about all these, 50-50 games, you got to have all the breaks go your way and win all those games.
I like the under. And the under's heavily juiced at minus 145. It's not like minus, 115 or 120. Minus 145 is suggesting that the book feels that they're going to be under the 9.5. And that's assuming that Bo Nix takes off right where he left off. There's no regression. We saw slight regression out of C.J. Stroud and Houston, right? So assuming that, I think I would take that under bet right now. We'll see. We'll come back. More totals, more conference bets right here on Football Full Circle. Keep it where it is.
We're not saying every SportsGrid listener is a legend, but you might start thinking about who's going to play you in the movie. Just saying. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
With the SportsGrid News Flash, I'm Trey Westerberg. The Army has re-enlisted more than 23 soldiers who were discharged for refusing the COVID-19 vaccine. 3 people rejoined active duty Army service, and more than 20 came back either to the National Guard or to the Reserve. New Mexico Governor Michelle Grisham signed legislation Monday to create a turquoise alert for when Native Americans go missing in the state. The effort, which had overwhelming support among lawmakers, responds to a troubling number of disappearances and killings in Indian country. The turquoise alert system will allow law enforcement to quickly share information. Texas Governor Greg Abbott announced a special election to fill the late Democratic U.S. Representative Sylvester Turner's seat won't be held until November. Abbott's announcement that the special election will be on November 4th came as Democrats have accused the governor of delaying the election after Turner's March 5th death to help Republicans maintain their razor-thin margin in the U.S. House. I'm Trey Westerberg with the SportsGrid News Flash.
Working as a dedicated Fidelity advisor, I always ask, what's important to you? I'll look at those priorities and goals alongside your full financial picture to build a comprehensive plan designed to help grow and protect your wealth. With proactive portfolio insights and an eye on taxes, I'm here to help you make the most of your money. I'm Laura Maxwell, and I'm a dedicated Fidelity advisor. Learn more at fidelity.com/wealth. Investment minimums apply. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE, SIPC.
Here's Comedians and Sketchers Getting Comfortable, presented by Hands-Free Skechers Slip-Ins.
Hey, I'm Bobby Slayton, and I'm here with my pal, comedian, and Skechers ambassador, Mr. Howie Mandel.
Why did it take so long to invent something as amazing as slip-ins? I know it seems simple, but it took Skechers to invent a better pair of shoes.
Yep, with Skechers Slip-Ins, you just step it and go. You don't have to touch your shoes. And by the way, Slip-Ins are for the whole family, men, women, and kids. In all your favorite Skechers styles, find Skechers Slip-Ins at a Skechers store, Skechers.com, or wherever stylish footwear is sold.
Ask any player and they'll tell you any advantage is important.
That's where we come in.
SportsGrid delivers gaming strategies and analysis 7 days a week.
The winning edge.
It's your advantage to more winning
more often.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
All right, we were breaking down the team totals for AFC teams like the Texans and Broncos. We'll dive into some conference odds here, Scotty. Let's take a look at the AFC South for a second. You got Houston, right, which we saw their schedule, not easy, right, in terms of the juice to the under, plus 125 to win the AFC South. Okay, you got the Colts at plus 310, Jacksonville at plus 270, and dead and buried Tennessee, which I thought it would be a little bit higher. 7-1 is the number. Even if they get Cam Ward and they pull that trigger and he starts from day number 1, I don't think Tennessee has any shot to compete for a divisional championship. But I guess only time will tell. If you're asking me right here, right now, Jacksonville seems like the best bet on the board at plus 270.
Yeah, I'd like to see their schedule. It's going to be a little different because they weren't the first place team. So, yeah, let's go through them.
We'll go through them. Let me ask you this, though. Do you think they can win with Liam Cohen at the helm?
The latest boy wonder, right? Can't be any worse. Let's put it that way. When you look at, the quarterback changes and different changes in an organization, you always say, all right, is this guy going to be the difference? Well, it can't be any worse, right?
Are you ready?
Whether it was Peterson or Urban Meyer, it's been a disaster there. So go ahead.
Yeah. All right. Outside division, okay? Non-conference opponents. Home schedule. Chiefs.
Loss.
Chargers.
Loss.
Rams.
Let's say they get one out of those three, so I'll give a win.
Seattle.
That should be a win.
Jets.
That's a win.
They lost to them last year. Carolina.
I'm going to say it's a loss.
At home? Okay.
I'm hopping on the Panthers bandwagon.
All right, you ready for the away?
And some of these games could be over in Europe, right? Don't forget they got 2 games over in Europe.
Right.
So at least one of those home games will be.
All right, you ready? Arizona.
They could win that.
Denver.
Loss.
Las Vegas.
They could win that. 5.
Niners and Bengals.
Loss and loss. So 5 and 6. 5 and 6.
They go 3-3 in the division.
Yeah.
8
and
wins.
9. Yeah.
Right.
What's the number?
Well, they're plus 270 to win the division. Their win total up on FanDuel is 7.5. Minus 125 to the over.
Dead on. That's all these guys do, Joe. They do the same thing. I know people are out there, that's stupid. Why do you do that? I hate that, right? First of all, I love that stuff, but that's all they do. They just pick the game that they know. I love it. I
look at this guy. This is I know you like this. I like it too.
Even though it's all thrown out the window when Washington all of a sudden is great and Carolina all of a sudden is great from last year with Washington, and there's always variables that are thrown in. But just generally speaking, those are the games they'll be favored on. Those are the games that they'll be underdogs in. And there's our number.
We're talking through it. We're trying to get to a bet that we could actually make that we feel comfortable with, right? 7.5 seems like right on peg. I have them at 8 and 9 based off of that. Is that good enough to win the AFC South? Probably not. But I think you make the 270 bet, assuming maybe there's a little regression in Houston, and maybe we're off on the number. We think they could get to 8 wins. Maybe they overexceed. They get to 9 and 10 and they steal it. Do we think the number is going to get worse at plus 270? Probably not, right?
Right. Yeah, probably not. I would just as soon take a flyer on Tennessee. Who knows? Maybe Ward does what Jaden Daniels did and what C.J. Stroud did. I think that's why that number is probably as low as it is. It's not that it's low, but it should realistically be higher, right? But I think the NFL world, the betting world now says, well, you know what? Last 2 years, we've had 2 teams that were as bad can be, make the playoffs the following year. So it's not that far of a stretch if you want to take a hunch with them getting the number 1 overall pick. Maybe Ward comes in and does the same thing.
All right. What do you think the total is on Tennessee?
Well, that's a tough one, right? I would say 5.5.
You nailed it. Where's the juice? Over or under?
I would say on the over.
It is not slightly, minus 135. You ready for this schedule?
Ooh.
We'll go through it, all right? Because you think Cam Ward is going to start immediately, correct?
Yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
All right. Here we go. Outside the division. No divisional opponents. Arizona.
Winnable.
Cleveland.
Winnable.
Denver.
Loss.
Raiders.
Winnable.
San Fran.
Loss.
In San Fran. No shot.
That's a loss. Yeah, no shot. Which is good because we want the teams that are going to beat them no matter where they play on the road.
Okay. All right.
We want the winnable games at home.
Here comes the meat. Kansas City.
I lost.
Chargers.
Probably lost.
Rams.
That's probably lost.
You could say it. Seattle.
They could win that one.
New England.
They could win that one.
Ah, come on. Vrabel going up against his former. He's going up against his former team. Come on.
Yeah,
Coach's fired system. Coach's fired system. And the Saints. You got 4 wins. I don't think you get on. All right. No shot.
Now the division games. Can they pick off Indianapolis at home? Yeah, they can do that, right? Now you're at 5.
Yeah, no problem.
You need one more.
Can do that.
You need one more fluky win.
No problem.
Maybe they win in San Francisco. No problem.
I'm selling Cam Woods. We'll be right back. We'll wrap it up on Football Full Circle.
Is winning the lottery. Strategy is settling your divorce before cashing in the ticket. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Get the winning edge. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. SportsGrid TV and radio networks are the premier streaming video and audio channel dedicated to serving the sports wagering audience. Found on major smart TV platforms and streaming on SportsGrid Radio and Sirius XM Channel 159. SportsGrid's real-time data, expert commentary, and entertaining analysis transform viewers into informed sports enthusiasts. Our weekday radio lineup begins with the early line at 8 a.m. Eastern with Ben Stevens and Donnie Rightside. Donnie joins Kevin Walsh on Money Line at 11 a.m. Eastern, followed by Football Full Circle at noon Eastern. Kaplan and crew join the party at 1 p.m. Eastern, and Pharrell Coast to Coast keeps things rolling from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern. Get in the mix with Kevin Walsh and Game Time Decisions at 6 p.m. Eastern. Evenings simmer with Carver and Lisi, then boils over with Gabe Moritzi on Sports Rage Late Night at 10 p.m. Eastern. To find out where to find SportsGrid that's best for you, go to sportsgrid.com. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Imagine combining the exciting investment opportunity of cryptocurrencies with the power of artificial intelligence to maximize your IRA, 401k, or other investment funds. Listen, if you're looking for ways to accelerate your retirement growth, Block Trust IRA has market-leading strategies and solutions for all levels of investors, from $1,000 to millions. And they partner with Bitcoin Magazine's #1 crypto trading fund in the world to maximize your returns. Plus, their team of IRA specialists is here to help you roll over your IRA or qualified retirement account to the new world of cryptocurrency investments. So make this free call right now to set up your account and learn more.
800-434-5313. 800-434-5313. 800-434-5313. That's 800-434-5313.
Think of us as your cool roommate that has this innate gift of somehow always picking winners and never bugs you about doing the dishes or paying rent. Sports gaming strategies and information 24/7. Get the winning edge. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
All right, wrapping up today's show, we were looking at conference championships, win totals. We'll go back to some of the divisions. We left off talking about the AFC South. Let's dive into an NFC division. How about the North? I always find the NFC North intriguing. Detroit, right, plus 125. No both coordinators are gone, right? So they're going to have to make up for that. What does that, entail? Is there any drop-off in terms of production? Green Bay plus 280. Minnesota now, plus 380. I thought that number was in the fours about a couple of weeks ago when we were doing the shows, plus 450, plus 475. Now they're only plus 380, and the Bears with Big Ben Johnson, the savior, plus 470. Black and blue division back, Scotty. I'll say this. It's Green Bay or bust for me. If they don't do it this year, they'll never do it over the next 2 or 3 seasons.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but I do like the Green Bay numbers. I mean, listen, they got a young quarterback who clearly has not reached his potential. He's going to get better. Little regression last year. He hasn't fulfilled the promise of being the greatest thing in the world like they thought they would when they paid him $1 gazillion. But they're going to be a player for the next 4, 5, 6, 7 years. Whereas I don't know about the Lions. You just want just because it's Detroit, right? So, but I like the number with 280. I don't think the Lions should be that big of a favorite. I mean, all those division games are all going to be tough. Win, lose, or draw, on the road or at home. So anything can happen in those games. They don't have a first-place schedule. And then they got a great head coach. So I like Green Bay. For that kind of money, plus 280, that's where I would go.
See, I can't bet on Chicago because if they lose or start the year at 0-2, let's just say it's difficult for them to pick up Ben Johnson's scheme or whatever, right? That number could be 8-1, 9-1, right? They start slow. There's no guarantee that people will be selling them early. So Minnesota, I think, is getting a lot of love right now. And there's still talk about them potentially getting Aaron Rodgers. If they do get Aaron Rodgers, but let me ask you this: is that if they get Aaron Rodgers tomorrow, is Minnesota still plus 380, or do they jump in front of Green Bay and more like 2-1?
I bet they would jump. I mean, I think the number is built in for Rodgers to be there. But then when he actually does go there, if he were to go there, then the public starts betting it. It's like, okay, they're going to be the greatest thing in the world, and all the hype kicks in. And then the boys in Vegas say, well, you know what? We don't need to offer 3 and change, but we could offer 2 and change, and the people are still going to bet it. So, and that's when they lower the number. But I think if Rodgers decides he's not playing, I think that number probably would go up a little bit. I mean, I think it's kind of built in I think he's going to play here. Or at least there's a chance he's going to play here.
Yeah, now, we did touch on the NFC West a little bit, but, if you believe, like I do, that Arizona could be a 9 or a 10-win football team, I like the plus 440 price in the West. You got the Rams at plus 160, San Francisco at plus 170. I would like to take a shot on Arizona plus 440. I think that's pretty good value. I do. Yeah. I know you don't like Kyler. I know.
Arizona for you this year is like your Giants play at 99-1 last season. You can have all the value you want. You want it 10-1? I'll give you 10-1. Yes, you love the Giants. Oh, what are you talking about? You love the Giants. Oh, they were like 100-1. Oh, they're a good team. They got this, they got that. They got Danny Nichols coming back. Neighbors going to set the world on fire. Great head coach. Oh, you love the Giants last year.
No.
Yes, it was. Yes.
I said they had 150-1 at one point to win the Super Bowl. That's what I said.
Whatever it was.
Yeah. All right. Wow.
You said they were worth a flyer. No.
Yeah, flyer in that regard. 150-1. I mean, come on. You're not going to get it. I mean, the Arizona Cardinals, what are their prices to win the NFC? I'll give it to you right now. What do you think they are?
For the NFC?
23-1. 23-1.
That's not. They should be 50-1. But that division is bad, and the schedule is bad. I tell you, I would be looking at some of those other teams for their overs as well. Because obviously, if Arizona's playing the NFC South and AFC South, so is Seattle and the Rams and the 49ers. Those teams got easy games this year.
I don't think Seattle's good. I'm not sold on McDonald's either. No. Again, where's the talent coming from? Get rid of DK Metcalf. You better pick up somebody in the draft. For Danny Oler, Scott Wetzel, I'm Joe Lisi. We'll be back tomorrow with Football Full Circle. Have a great day, everyone.
You found the advantage for gaming, odds, and more. But we call it